Hi, and thanks for joining Scruffy Politics. Stimpy over here in Detroit, Steve over there in far suburbs of Illinois. And we're going to talk about Trump's approval rating after his 100 days in office. A lot of people in the media, and Steve is of the same opinion that he has the lowest approval rating ever, the worst of any president.
Well, I mean, it's pretty low. I don't know if it's the worst, but I think there's a lot of people who regret their vote. Um, I I can't say hey. Oh, well, I can say hey, I told you so. No, but they're now realizing, holy shit, tariffs to how people are being treated, to lies, to manipulating journalism and wanting 60 Minutes to do interviews this way or that way or edit it, or, how Trump is blaming everything. And how they didn't find that out his first 4 years as president from 2016 to 2020, I guess they were blind. But now they're figuring out this is a guy who defies the Supreme Court, who had, who is definitely not a fan of immigrants. His tariffs are out of control. Other countries don't want to even visit America right now. It's really unfortunate. He's a divider, and Trump is not positive. You need a leader who's positive. Yeah, have you ever had a boss, even if you had a boss you didn't like, who every day they tweeted something negative, they bullied people, they were rude, they were, called women names, like most people, if they did that at their job, they'd be fired, they'd be suspended. Trump, he's not a leader. He's a bully, and I think that's what people are finally seeing. And now that he has nothing to lose, he's just doing whatever he wants. And I think a lot of Americans are seeing that. So it's
Well,
yeah.
naturally, I have a different take on it. I would agree his approval rating is low. I think that's primarily because, first of all, I think that the media industry, when they poll people, they poll lots of Democrats. Democrats are vocal. Democrats want to talk about it. I've never been asked to do a poll in my entire life, and I've been talking about politics since I was 18 years old. So you know what I'm saying? Where are they polling people? I think they poll way more Democrats. That's why every election that I've ever been a part of or witnessed, the polls always have the Democrats leading. That's because they always poll more Democrats. The way you do polls in the United States of America is you go talk to 100 Democrats and then you go talk to 3 Republicans. And then you say, look, Donald Trump's doing a bad job. The 100 Democrats we talked to said so. I mean, it's just not realistic. Now, I will say this. As far as people souring on Donald Trump, there is a little bit of that going on, and that's because people didn't realize that he was being serious and he was going to go so hardcore on the tariffs. Okay, so there are some people who are saying, wait, I legitimately voted for you, and these could be soft Republicans, these could be independents. They're saying, I voted for you because I was upset about the immigration situation, watching Joe Biden bring in billions of immigrants that were housing and feeding. And I wanted you to lower prices. I wanted to get back to the cheap gas of the first Trump administration. So those people right now are a little upset because they're like, I didn't realize you were going to go into this. I didn't realize you were going to mess up the stock market. But the rest of the people like myself, now maybe this is just because I'm in business, but I understand what he's going for, so I'm willing to give him some latitude. And I'm not looking at the stock market as a negative thing. In fact, I'm looking at it as a great opportunity to buy because it's on sale. Now, the minute they announce a rate drop in interest rates, or they announce their first deal that they've made with a country, you're going to see the stock market shoot up probably 1,000 to 2,000 points on the Dow Jones. And then everything's going to be like, wow, what do you know? We're back. So they've got tons of companies or countries coming in and meeting with them. Howard Lutnick the other day on CNBC said he can't say who because they have to get their country's parliament's approval, but they already have a deal done with a couple of these countries. So it's probably like South Korea or India And as far as the Chinese, I don't know if you've been following the news. The Chinese have already backed off on several. Like I was just reading just before we started this, there's a key chemical component that you need to make things. We are the chief exporter of it. It's called ethane. And China had 125% tariff on it. They dropped it, the whole thing, no tariff. They're like, please sell us the ethane. We're already running into trouble. So you're going to see more of that happen. I mean, the people that, and I get it, not everybody's an expert on this. I'm not either. But the point is, China, if you look at the situation, China was selling us all this stuff, right? We weren't selling China very much. So China is the one who's in a bad spot right now. Now, granted, they're a dictatorship, so they might not care about their people. But if they want to keep their country running, they're going to have to come to the table before we do. So we're in the process of kind of breaking that down. Here's the other thing. You notice the reporters, they keep asking Trump, well, the Chinese say they're not negotiating. They're all going to say that, right? They're negotiating. Don't think that they're not.
Trump has also said that he has many countries calling him, wanting to do deals.
Yeah, they're coming to Washington, actually.
He says that they're kissing his ass. They're not. No, they can't stand you. They don't like you. And like Canada said, they can still function. They just have to figure out how to maneuver around Trump.
I mean, Canada's a perfect example. So, Steve, why do we need wood from Canada? Do you know how many trees we have in the United States of America? Milk, cheese. Do we need that from Canada? What do we really need from Canada that we don't have in America?
Well, it's a good question, too. Yes.
I can't think of anything. So are we just helping prop up their economy because we're being nice?
Yeah.
Is that what it boils down to? Does Canada actually have an economy? Because Americans just feel like we should be nice to them.
But you also have to figure out what's the cheapest way of getting things. If you're going to create more American jobs, which is great, but then if it comes from an American job, it's going to cost probably more because then you're going to have to pay that worker than if you buy it from somewhere else. And it's good to buy American. It is. But realistically, that can't happen all the time because
I'm maybe closer to this than a lot of people realize because I live outside of Detroit and I'm from Michigan. And I know this side of the state and I know this auto industry. I actually worked for like 7 months as a UAW worker. So I know a little bit about this. But if you go back to 1940, all the vehicle plants were in Saginaw, Flint, and Michigan, and Detroit, Michigan, right? But now a lot of those plants are in Canada. That's great for the people in Canada. It didn't help the people in Saginaw and Flint and Detroit. Those people actually either just went down on the economic ladder or they had to go find something else to do because that really cushy GM auto job or whatever, it left. It went to either Mexico or it went to Canada. So that raises the standard of living for your average guy living in Ontario or living in Juarez. But the guy that lost out on that deal was the people I grew up around in Saginaw and Flint and Detroit. So now Trump's talking about bringing it back, which is mind-blowing to me how just before the election, you had that Sean Fain representing the UAW workers saying, we're for Biden. And I'm like, same thing with Obama. The only thing that happened under either one of those presidents is the jobs left.
When Trump said he wanted to bring auto manufacturing back, a lot of it is robotic. It doesn't require people. That's what he was talking about. He's not looking to bring more American jobs, for the auto industry. So that right there, he was not.
So again, I can speak to this personally, right? Because I was actually in a huge manufacturing operation here in Detroit where they build car components for the Ford Bronco and the Ford Maverick, right? A lot of stuff in that plant was machine operated and robotic operated. Do you know what else I saw a lot of in there? People. Because you can't do anything without a human being. So you're right. A lot of the jobs of the future are going to be robotic, but just like our cars, right? So you used to have a mechanic that all he needed was a wrench and he could fix your car. But today, the people who go to school to learn how to work on like your car's new, they have to know how to use computers because the first thing they do is plug a computer into it, right? So all we had to do was find a different way for that tech to do his job. It's not like they're out of work though. So the jobs of the future, it's going to be robotic, but we need somebody that knows the robot. What do you do when the robot breaks? Who's operating the robot? The robot doesn't operate by itself. It's a high-tech job now. It requires software.
Yeah.
And a trained technician that knows how to work it and care for it and maintain it so that the robot's there to do the heavy lifting. The human being is still there to make sure the job gets done.
That's a good point. However, I'll rewind back to Trump's popularity. Before I forgot to mention it. So when I drove past one of those protests, it was a peaceful protest, those hands-off protests.
Yeah.
I drove by one near me the last week it was, and yeah, there were a few Trump people out there counter-protesting, but it was mainly all people who were against Trump, and not everyone's a Democrat or a liberal. I know people who are not a Democrat, who are not liberal, who despise Trump and what he stands for. And I think it's just people seeing how Trump is not a good leader, how we're laughed at throughout the whole world right now. Trump, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, like, have you ever had a boss who acted like him? I've never. When I worked for Coca-Cola, I had a boss there I couldn't stand, but he would never act like Donald Trump. I mean, that's just.
I actually had a boss I think that was probably worse than Donald Trump.
Oh well, then that's pretty sad because that's not how life. That's and Trump, he's supposed to be a role model. Presidents are supposed to be a role model. You can't even talk about this guy at school, in education or,
I think the role model thing went out the door with Bill Clinton.
It's such a,
I mean,
it's such a hot topic. But you had, role models like, Barack Obama. He was a great role model. George W. Bush, even though he wasn't the best. George Bush, Ronald Reagan, like those types. Those type of leaders that showed you how to be a leader. And with Trump, you just can't take the guy seriously. He's a bullshitter. He's toxic. He's not positive. He's always toxic. And every day there's something negative. And instead of spewing positivity, even if even if you might disagree with him on something and he'll be like, oh, this is great. No, he has to say something about Biden or Jimmy Carter or the stupid, or, about, oh yeah, when he was at the Pope's funeral, he was, doing his Truth Social. He did a Truth Social post about the NFL draft right at the same time he was at the Pope's funeral. Like, this is a guy who cannot, and he did not wear black to the Pope's funeral. He wore a blue suit so I think people need to ask him, why didn't you wear the proper suit to the Pope's funeral while all the other leaders actually looked like competent leaders while you just stood out there looking like an idiot? Yeah. So, but I see, with these protests you see so many people are against him more than they are for him. I think they're seeing that, a lot, and there's a lot of voter remorse. And yes, there still will be the Trump cult out there. The Trump people who have their Trump flags and their Trump hat and which is weird. Like, it's weird to have a Trump flag hanging where the American flag should hang outside. Like, I walk by a house every day when I walk the dog. A Trump flag. I'm like, fine, you could have a Trump flag. I saw a house once that had Trump, like Trump, it looked like Halloween because you had a Trump poster board, a Trump flag here, a Trump, like,
So why is that so bad for someone to fly a Trump flag to show that they support that? How is that any different than someone flying a pride flag? I mean, my neighborhood in Chicago before I left had more pride flags than American flags.
yeah, I don't see it pride flags around here, but
Oh, my
not,
neighborhood used to have
not
all
in
kinds of
my
them.
neighborhood. But yeah, I mean, I personally think the only flag you should fly is the American flag. Unfortunately, people have, yeah. So yeah, it's a good
And don't
point.
forget those flags that I don't know if they're still popular, but the yard signs that said, what did they say? Like, um, remember those yard signs that say like science is real, no human is illegal, water is life.
Oh, really? Oh, well, no, but
I had those in my neighborhood too.
oh my,
I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe it was just my neighborhood. I don't know.
And I'm not one who puts up yard signs because I don't want my house to get egged or anything. So,
Right.
I'm not gonna put up who I like, politically. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
no, it's
We got to end on a positive note, Steve.
yes.
Didn't you see the good thing that Trump did recently? He was here the other night at Selfridge Air Force Base. Now, I know because I was out there doing some work because it was under construction. And Gretchen Whitmer asked for his help, and they needed millions of dollars infused to save that military base. And Trump agreed, and he's given her the funding for it. So he was there at the base with the military, and then he actually asked Gretchen Whitmer to come up to the stage, and she said a couple of words.
Oh, okay. Good. Good.
So
Hopefully
there's a Republican and a
that
Democrat in a swing state like Michigan getting along and passing bills and providing
that was
income to the local
probably
economy
good.
and our military. And I don't actually know the full details. I think they're supposed to be maybe even doing something with an F-15 fighter plane there or something. I can't remember.
Okay. Well, good as long, but I'm not a fan of your governor also, but I'm not a fan of my governor either. And he looks like he's going to run in 2028. But
Yeah, now remember he said, Pritzker said that, what did he say? Something like people should be out in the streets giving Republicans a hard time or something. I don't know. He said something
well,
crazy.
I don't see anything wrong with that. If peaceful protesting that's happening. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's so that's a wrap. Trump at his 39% approval rating. But we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, just watch the stock market when they announce that they've done a deal with China. It's gonna shoot through the roof.
Don't worry. Once that happens, Trump is gonna say right before it, "Now's the time to buy," and Marjorie Taylor Greene will get even richer. Yes, yes, because there's no insider trading going on at all.
No, of course not. Well, that we agree on. There's too much insider trading. That's how when
Nancy
if you're
Pelosi.
watching this and you don't understand how politics works, when you have someone like AOC who comes into Congress as a former bartender, and then you find out she's worth 30 million. If you want to know how that happens, it's all insider trading. They're buying stocks and selling them based off their intel meetings and the information that they have before everybody else. So they know what stock's going to go up and what's going to go down, or where money is flowing to, or who's about to be, sued by the government. So anyway, that's how
Yeah,
members
true.
of Congress get
And it
rich.
happens on both sides. Nancy Pelosi to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yep.
I just have to say Marjorie Taylor Greene's name because she is, I think, the most despicable politician out there. Yeah, I think she's even as worse as Trump. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, we will leave it there. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Tune in for our next one. Tell other people to listen to us if you want to hear two average middle class guys talk about the
Hmm.
politics of the day.
Yes.
All
Thank you.
right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.